Hello and welcome to this special installment of the Introverted Poets podcast, filling in for Ilana Jade since she only does audio. I am Jacqueline, also known as Ms.Monroe, and tonight we will be hearing a collection of poems and works written by Miguel Ricky Martinez, published by Elusive Publishing, owned by Cindy Bernal Daughtry, author of Looking into Infinity. Folks can often see Ricky Martinez on a stage reciting poems for Laredo Border Slam and hosting these events at amazing locations such as Los Olvidados Coffee Shop, Rochas, The Rooftop, and other cool locations. Links and ads for Miguel Ricky Martinez events, workshops, and socials will be posted in our episode description below, wherever you watch or listen to the Introverted Poets podcast. If you're not familiar with the podcast or are just tuning in, the Introverted Poets podcast is a safe space for the shy writer or poet. Si hablamos español y esperamos que los envíen un día. Writers submit poems or stories to our email, which is provided in the episode description. Once we receive the email, we then work with the author and do a Zoom call with no cameras. The name of the game is anonymity. Working with pen names is our thing. Other ways of reaching us and submitting will be posted in the episode description on whichever platform you listen to us on. For the extroverted folks, we now have a video platform like this YouTube channel or wherever you are watching us from. For the shy folks, we still have the audio only portion. It just depends on what you feel comfortable with. Now back with Mr. Martinez, author of this book right here, Broken Reflections, that you can purchase on Amazon and have autographed by him at the Lunada Fest. Details for the festivals will be posted on the description for this episode. Broken Reflections. Keep you waiting any longer. We have Miguel Ricky Martinez here. Miguel, we want to thank you so much for coming on to the show here at the Introverted Poets podcast and having so much interest in us. We also thank you for your support. We saw you rooting for us on the Alejandro Fajardo episode, so we just want to say thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is an amazing deal. I've had a good amount of book sales lately, so it's like I'm very appreciative for the support.
Woo! Congratulations, man! I'm so excited to get my copy.
Yeah, Broken Reflect right here.
Broken Reflections. I love the title. So I just want to ask you a few questions here in this interview. So what got you into writing?
I've actually always been a writer, to be honest. English writing has always been like it's always been my forte, right? It's always been like my best subject. So like, but I used to write like music in the past, like during middle school, high school. But then I started doing it like after high school as well. But I never really did anything with it. And like I got into poetry maybe in like I love poetry. I love reading quotes and stuff like that. But I was never really a writer at poetry.
Yeah.
And I started, and it sounds cliche because it really started with like a girl that I was talking to 2019. I don't want to mention names, but she was a big fan of like the arts community and everything like that. She was into acting and theater arts and all that. So I was like, let me write her a poem. I'm pretty good at writing, so let me do that. So
that's sweet.
So like after a while, like of course that never really went anywhere. She loved it, but really she never really went anywhere. And I just like, I don't know, I continued writing for some reason. I fell in love with this writing and stuff like that. And during that time, I was going through like certain situations in my life, like, you know, where I broke my rib and stuff like that. So it was like, it was kind of my way of like dealing with certain things. And before you know it, 2020 came around, you know, another situation happened. I was like, you know what, instead of being angry about this, let me go ahead and go perform. I already got like a good amount of
that energy. That's awesome. You know, I have some similarities to why I started doing poetry. It was also my first poem was written for a boy, so I could definitely feel you on that.
It's funny how that starts.
What story made you realize that you could write? I mean, you said that you were reading a lot of poetry before you decided to start writing yourself.
What story?
Yeah. Is there any
Um,
specific?
actually, like, I think the story that I kind of wrote was like, it was very personal. It was about depression, and it was the very first poem I ever performed at Laredo Border Slam. It's called a depression poem. I was no good at titles at that time, and I was barely starting, so I was kind of like, depression poem. I guess I'll just call it that. So it's like, and then like, I performed it there, and I got a good it was probably like the third poem I ever wrote, but it was the very first one I ever performed on stage. So
A lot of
it's
people seem
yeah,
like they could relate to your writing.
of course, it's that poem's actually always got a good reaction. I feel like I went through depression at one point in 2018, and like I feel like there's more people that have gone through that as well and how they can relate to it. So I was actually just writing it for myself at the time, but then I still write for myself, but now I also write to send a message. So like I tell my stories, but I also like I kind of write mental health poems as well to like give the message out to people that there's always a way out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no
There's
matter
always
what,
a
like
helping hand, you know.
yeah,
There's
and
always someone who's going through the same thing, and there's always like someone that can relate to your situation and hear you out, which is definitely like a huge issue like around the whole entire world. So it's awesome how you make poems that can relate to people like that.
of course, like last night I was at AJ's and I had a conversation with this guy that I met, right? Like,
Yeah.
these girls that I knew, they were with him, and like we had a conversation. The word always gets out. Oh, he's a poet, right? So it's just funny, right? Like, and I was telling them about my book. I got a few on sale right now, but he got to talking about like how like oh, Laredo, like in Laredo, like we live in that culture with machismo, like us men, like can't always say how we feel,
Yeah, because
but
it's
like
like they tell you,
yeah,
oh, if you cry, you're you know, a P at word, but yeah, I
yeah,
don't
it's
think I
like
say the word pussy, but
and,
yeah,
I used to think like that too, right? And I guess it's kind of true in a way, but you know what
it's
I mean, like
toxic
yeah,
masculinity. Like, men should be able to feel too. They're like, we're all human beings. It doesn't matter whether you're a woman or a man. Everybody feels the same type of emotions. So that's a great thing that you bring things like topics like that up to in your writing.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's like and it was like a real good conversation. Like he made some valid points, but with me, I kind of like he's his own person too. I can tell, right? But I'm my own person. Like what I mean. I kind of like from that situation I went through. I was kind of like, you know what? I used to be that person. I used to keep things bottled up. Some things I still do, but most things like I know that need to be talked about. So it's like I know what it feels like, and I'm pretty sure you know what it feels like, and other people as well know what it feels like when you bottle something deep inside, like for so long.
Yeah,
Sometimes you're gonna like it just
you want to
it weighs,
explode
yeah, it
the
weighs you
wrong
down. Yeah,
time.
yeah. So
That's definitely better to just write it down. So
yeah, exactly.
I know you like to read and stuff. So like, what type of books does it like your soul gravitate towards?
And here's the funny thing is like I was never actually like I was never very big on buying books,
Yeah.
but I would like I would always like if I would go to the library or something. I used to be, but then as I got older, I kind of stopped. But I used to like I remember I love like the life kind of books, right? Like I remember being a kid and like having chicken soup for the soul.
Oh,
The
I
books like
love
that,
those. I actually
those are
have one of those books right now, the Dream Dictionary or Dream. It's a
man,
book about
that's
dreams, and it kind of like just says the stories of people dreams, and some of them are like premonitions, and some of them are just
yeah,
like they realize from it. But those were my favorites too, because I love the poetry ones too. Like
yeah.
those were my first favorite poetry books.
Like I kind of just like a couple of years ago, I just started getting back into books as well. I used to like read some stuff about poetry. Like I loved reading life quotes. Like I'm a big fan of like the quotes on Facebook that you should how there's like poetry, like stuff you can like share, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the poetry websites or whatever, like this you know, whatever it is, and yeah, so I kind of like started and I was like, dude, I gotta read more like I used to do back then. So yeah, I'm anything about life, about like all that, like, you know, I'm into like mystery as well, but it's like, you know, it's different things, but more about life, you know, than
So would
anything
you
else.
say like you like also like philosophy type of books, which is like talks
Yeah.
about life too?
Yeah, and
Oh,
those are amazing. Like, you know, those could actually help you out sometimes, or a lot of times actually, you know. So it's like, you know, they make, you know, sometimes you don't know how to like handle a situation, and you get, you know, you read something, you're like, wait, okay, I never thought about it from this perspective. Now I got it from this perspective, and maybe, okay, this helped me along the way. So it's like, you know, it's very like interesting, you know.
yeah, it changes your perspective. And then like reading other people's poetry and stuff is like, you know,
Yeah.
it also inspires you. Like for me, whenever I write, a lot of the things that I get inspired by is just like I'm listening to a song and I'm like, oh, you know, I'm just some random line or something pops in my head
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, like I need to write that down. So
Yeah, like I'm very like real quick, I'm very like I don't know, my mind works very like on the clock, like, you know what I mean? It's like I can, I don't sleep that much. I can get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and I'll still go to work, or 2 hours of sleep and I'll still go to work. But there's moments where I'll be like, you know, if I'm trying to sleep, but I have very bad insomnia. So like whenever I'm trying to sleep, sometimes a line will just pop into my head, and I'm like, oh my God, like I've slept that much, but I need to get up and write this down before I forget it. You know what I mean? So and like, you know, it's a love and a hate thing, because it's like, oh man, I can always like, do I really have to get up right now? But then I don't, but I want to keep that line. You know, I want to keep that line because it's
don't
good
want to
for,
lose that from your
yeah.
memory bank. So
And
yeah, that's a good thing
that,
to do, to write it down, definitely. Even if you don't get the whole poem or whatever, just like boom, you already from there, you got something to start off with.
of course,
Oh,
just
I love
like, you
that. So
know,
how did you go from reading to writing?
reading to writing. Like I said, I was always a writer,
Yeah.
and like it's weird because I never knew that I'm not the best at writing, but it's kind of crazy because I remember. Do you remember back in the days when like they would grade you? I don't know if they still do this, but you remember back in high school when they would grade you on ones, twos, threes, and fours in compositions?
Yes.
I would get like threes and fours, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, and then that's where I was like, wait, it's not the first time this happens. Like, it's happened like 5 times. So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty good at this, I guess, right? And
Yeah.
then I started loving it, and I started putting more into it. And like, whenever I would write compositions, I would always like pick the most personal topic if we had a choice of our topic. But like, let's just say they gave us like a theme or something. Like they gave us, you know, they gave us their own theme, what to write about. I'll be like, okay. So let's just say it was like, all right, what's the worst situation you've been in? Like, you know, that you can remember, or that kind of like maybe traumatized you. I could think back about like an '07 when me and my buddy Martin got into a car accident, and like the car got totaled. Like we hit the car, but like it was a drunk driver that got right in front of us. So like it was his fault, the drunk driver's fault, but like, you know, we ended up hitting him because he was on a stop sign. So and like we're about to pass him, and that's where he, like, you know, rushes right in front of us. And like it was a very bad collision. And I've written about that, and like I've had like professors come up to me like, hey, that's a very good, you know, I like your composition, I like your story, and
Yeah.
it's very personal. So key for me is
Like really, really deep thoughts.
like I read about the most personal thing that I could ever think about, you know. So it's like it kind of helps me in a way as a writer.
That's awesome.
Um,
And that helps
yeah,
other people too. So you'd
of
also
course.
say, like, aside from poetry, like you'd be a pretty good storyteller also.
That's actually what I, you know, poet, storyteller, you know.
Both
Every,
tie in the
yeah,
same.
every poet's got their own style. You know what I mean? So it's like me, I love to write metaphors and stuff like that. Like, you know, like of course, every poet has metaphors, but I'm very like, how should I say it? Okay, like I could be outside, you know, my backyard, and I could like get inspiration from anything. And I
Yeah,
always tell people like, there's poetry in everything. That's what I think. Like, I can be looking up at the stars, and there's poetry there. There's stories to tell. You know, you can
definitely.
like, you can
I
hear
agree with
about,
you.
like, you can do information about the stars, and like you're like, oh, I didn't know this. So you could put that in a metaphor, like, you know, let's just say it's a love poem, right?
Yeah.
It could be like, I have it. I think I have this one like poetry quote that I wrote, and it says, "People say the North Star is the brightest star of the constellation. but how could that be possible when the only stars are bright are your eyes? Like something like that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Wow, so Rico
Like
suave.
yeah, it's like I've been
Can I
called.
use that line as
Yeah,
the bar? No, I'm just kidding.
you can. I don't
That's sweet.
mind,
That's
but
a very romantic line. I actually like
yeah,
that. Like, I might use that.
I like, you know what I mean? Like, so I've used that before, like, you know, like metaphors like that and stuff like that. Like, also like I've used something like with the, like, see the birds, right? And I'm like, okay, like you see birds, you know how they're up on branches,
Yeah.
and like, or I can say something like, maybe like a love quote where it says, like the moon speaks to me. The moon, if the moon could speak, it could tell me about you. Like, you know, it tells me that you're doing okay. Just, you know, just different things like that, you know. So,
That's cool. I like
but
that.
yeah,
Well,
but
definitely.
yeah,
I think you're like, you do really good love poems, huh?
yeah, I try to do more than just love poems. Like that's what I started off with. So I guess that's why I've done it so much. But that's why I started writing like about childhood, mental health, and just
Yeah.
different things, you know, about death.
Other topics, important things that other people can
Yeah,
relate to. That's
because
so awesome.
because
So,
I don't want to just be known as a love poet, because like that's what I was known for in the very beginning. Oh, romantic poet. Oh, hopeless romantic poet. Oh, love poet. I'm like, okay, I appreciate that, but I hope y'all don't just know me for that. You know what I mean? Like,
don't just remember me for that. I'm a multi-talented man.
exactly. I'm like,
Okay, so what was the purpose of Broken Reflections? Like the book, the name
oh,
specifically?
okay. So I don't know if you can see, I don't know if you can tell. It's like a broken mirror,
Yeah.
and like you see the lights here,
Yeah, I
and
did.
I gotta give props to Cindy, because she was the one that actually, she's helped me out a lot, and she's actually the one she's always given me like ideas. Okay, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? You don't have to do this, but what do you think about? And she's the one that gave me this idea. She's actually the one that man, I'm trying to remember. I think it was her idea to use broken, because I was actually gonna call it pandemic reflection, because the purpose of this book
Yeah.
was because you know how bad 2020 was. You know, people were passing away, and it wasn't really my intention to write a book, but I stayed in for a year and a half, right? And I was just doing nothing but writing. I was like, nah, you know what? I'd rather keep it safe right now, because it's getting a little bit worse. So I stayed there for about a year and a half, and all I was doing was writing, working and writing. That's all I was doing. So before the pandemic, I had 15 poems only written, right?
Wow.
And I came back when I started coming back out in May of 2021. I had more than 200 poems written. So I, you know, it wasn't my intention to write a book, but there's some people that were like asking me, "Why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book?" And I was kind of like,
Not enough poetry to do it. So
yeah,
wow.
that's what they said too. They're like, "Man, you have enough poems, like you have enough poems for like 2 books." And I was like, and I thought about it, and I feel bad that it took like going from like I feel bad that it took like thinking about having people pass away to do it. But I started thinking like, okay, um, there's a lot of people not here anymore, right? You know, there's been a lot of negativity. The world could use more positivity.
Definitely.
So it's like, you know, I was like, you know what? Maybe people are right. Maybe I should write a book. So I put up a status about like, I put up a status question saying, "Hey, what do y'all think about me writing a book?" And there's a lot of comments, like there was a lot of like reactions and people, yeah, do it. And then Cindy reached
You
out to
only
me.
live once.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Let me go put out a book. You know, let me try this. And if you see this, you notice the broken mirror.
Yeah.
And you see the lights. So pretty much the idea with that, the representation of that is like, this is about going through troubled times, like depression or death, anything, and coming back out, you know, like, you know, in a positive manner. You know what I mean? It's pretty
Yeah.
much,
You know, I
yeah.
think a lot of people feel like that broken inside, but it's like reflecting on that too. Like reflecting
I was
those
doing a lot of reflecting, so I had a lot to write about, and like that's what the
I love
lights
the
also
cover,
represent.
love the book. I can't wait to get my copy so I can read it.
First. And that's the light. That's what the lights here represent. Is the light at the end of the tunnel. So like when Cindy brought this up to me, I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. And it was going to be called Pandemic Reflections, but Cindy brought up the idea. She brought up her point that like, okay, but I don't think like pandemic reflections, like a lot of people can write about that. You search pandemic, and like, there's gonna be so many. You're not gonna be able to, it's gonna be hard to find because there's gonna be so many pandemic this, pandemic that. So I don't remember it was me or her that came up with broken, but one of us came up with that, and I was like, that sounds perfect, broken.
That was the theme or the concept of your book.
Yeah, it's about like people feeling broken, and then kind of growing from your pain. So that's pretty much the message behind the book is like, I want people to remember this as like, okay, the message I'm trying to put out is that, no matter what you go through, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. It takes time to heal, but when you finally do, it's gonna be worth it because like there's people go through pain and they hide it, and I understand that I've been there before, so I'm not here to judge, but I want them to know that there's always people out there to help, So it has a lot of poems about death, and it has some heartbreak poems. It has poems about mental health. So it's like, it's a very deep book. I went back to look at it even more, and I'm like, man.
You're like, I can't believe I did this. Like, wow. Yeah, you definitely accomplished something great. I just want to say, like, wow, dude, like you're such an inspiration to so many people who want to, like, possibly write, a book and get published and stuff. And you'll definitely be remembered, like when it's our time, right? But you will be remembered as somebody who was helpful to others and, shared certain experiences with other people. So what genre would you consider your book?
I was thinking about that earlier. I thought about that the past few days. I was like, I think, oh man, I don't want to say drama, but probably like life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's I don't know if there's a genre that says life or anything, but that would probably be like right there. It would probably fit that.
You make the new genre, hashtag
life.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you think? What could it fit through? You know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Drama, I don't know.
Drama. That might be a good one. There's a lot of drama involved, right? Death,
life,
tragedy, heartbreak, life.
Yeah, of course. So maybe that, or like if there's a genre called life at a book place, that'll probably fit perfectly.
Everyone's gonna quote Ricky Martinez on this one. Hashtag life. Let's start.
Hashtag book life.
Started.
Book the reflections right there.
Oh, I love it. So, are you gonna be going on any book tours, or do you have anything planned to try maybe in the future, do something like that?
I actually have 2 shows coming up. I just performed last Thursday at Rocha's bar. I had my 8th gig there, and shout out to Ray Rocha for having me perform there.
Your tocayo.
Yeah, it was a very good. Oh, Ray Rocha, not tocayo. It's not Ricky, but he's the owner. He's the owner of Rocha's bar, and like I met him a few times, and like I remember I had met him with my buddy Hector because he was working there at the same bar, and we caught up, and like he let me perform there, and like that was my 8th gig, and it was actually the first place I ever actually got paid, and I was like, wow, like this is cool. So I got 2 more. I got 2 shows coming up. I'm performing this Thursday. Well, this coming Thursday at AG's bar from 9 to 10. And then that's Saturday I'm performing at La Luna. I'm having a 1-hour show there too from 8:30 to 9:30.
Nice. We'll be actually showing up for that too. So
and like
for sure.
So I'm gonna be doing a book tour. I don't think it's a book tour, but I'll be having like a book signing. I'll be selling books.
I think it is considered a book tour because I mean you're kind of like going to different locations. I mean I know it's not like a tour all over the world, but maybe like a book tour in Laredo. Because I know that you've already gone to like La Cultura, right? And you did the first Mystic Fest, so you are kind of like hopping around. So somewhat kind of like a book tour, but maybe one day.
Yeah, so I'll be doing that. I'll be going place to place. I might have I also have like a deal going on with Frontera Beer Garden, but that'll be like when I buy more books. Because like I'm gonna be selling books, but I'm gonna have half and half. So because I gotta I'm trying to like stay with this as much as possible because I got more people reaching out to me that want to buy more books. So I got some more books that I already ordered from Cindy, and like we already ordered them, and they're coming up. I should be getting them by next week. and I'll be having more. So, you know what I mean? It's crazy. I didn't think a lot of people would want to buy the book. I didn't know what to expect, but like, you know, I still got more people that want to buy it, and it's like very successful. Like, you know, I'm having a pretty good like fan base, you know, and it's like, wow, like it's still is
Soon
been
you'll be getting fan
yeah,
mail and, you know,
it's been a
lots of
week
girls
already.
throwing themselves at you.
I don't know about that, but yeah, like I've been having a good fan base, right? It's barely been a week, and it's like I'm still processing all of this because like, oh, we want you to sign it. I'm like, oh, I'll be happy to, but like I never expected that, you know what I mean? So it
Oh,
was like,
that's so
it's,
sweet. That's
yeah,
special, man. Like, awesome.
I'm very grateful for that. You know what I mean? I didn't know what to expect.
Everybody
You know, like,
deserves that chance in the spotlight, especially when it's like you're doing something so great for everybody and everybody can relate to you, and you know everybody just loves that. You know, I guess they love that they can relate to your work. So
yeah, and I always tell them I appreciate that. You know, and it like the word's always spreading. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I don't know how many people. Like I'm pretty sure there's gonna be more people because there's been more people reaching out to me. I had a few people reach out to me this morning. And like that's the thing. Like I have only 12 books left right now, but those are that I'm saving for ages. But I got more coming, so I have them. I'm
the
preserving.
books are
But
selling like hotcakes. They're selling like
yeah,
Whataburger.
it's crazy. But it's very,
Filet,
you know,
hot
it's
and
very,
red.
very. I'm very
Just see the
appreciative
hot
of
and
that.
red.
All that. Yeah, like I really appreciate that so much. Is like the support, you know, and I post the status about that too, because like I can't help but, you know, let people know how grateful I am for that. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool experience.
Well, it's not every day you get to meet like a published author in Laredo, so that's pretty awesome. I need to check out
Yeah,
Cindy's work too, so I wouldn't want to get my
yeah,
copy from her and you.
yeah.
So that would be
I
so awesome.
I actually just bought a book, I think like 2 weeks ago. I bought both her books, and like they're very amazing. Like it's like I like her work, so it's like, you know, I
Awesome.
always tell her like she has this kind of imagery poetry, and it's like she has you like kind of thinking. It's like, oh snap, like, you know, you can really like,
Can really visualize what it is that she
yeah.
writes. Oh, okay, that sounds amazing, man. I can't wait to check that out. So do you plan on writing any other books, narratives or poems?
Narrative I've been thinking about, but like I'm not too sure if I'm gonna write a narrative yet. But poetry, yeah. I don't know when. I really don't know when, but I do know that I want to write another book soon. Um, you know, as soon as like I get, you know, all this, you know, start doing more stuff with this. So I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. I will say.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing more of your, work and seeing more of your books. And I honestly hope that you do continue to write more books. I honestly feel like you're going to be really, really successful at that. So I know that you've been also hosting a lot of writing workshops. I just wanted to know what inspired you to do this for, other people and for Laredo.
Actually, like I only did two, but that one was virtual. That was my first one, and you know, what inspired me to do that was like everybody that Axel Armando Lopez, shout out to him. He's like the grandfather of poetry in our
I remember
Laredo
him. I
Poetry Slam.
remember seeing him.
Like
He
he's
was
like,
one of my
yeah,
favorite poets too at the border slam.
you know, he was the very first person that I went to, he was the very first teacher that I had at a poetry workshop. And I remember, I still remember this, he gave us this theme. It was called Something Is Like Heaven to Me, or oh, what was it? I had this, no, I think it was called, it was something having to do with like your favorite place. And I wrote this poem called The Ranch Is Like Heaven to Me. And I wrote this poem about the ranch, how like because I'm an outdoorsman. Oh man, I hate that I can't remember that theme, but I know that it was about like, you know, it was about places like, actually I think it was like this place is like church to me. Sorry, there you go. So I put this, the ranch is like church to me. So shout out to Axel for giving me that you know, that inspiration. And like I got to other workshops after that. I've probably been to like maybe like 5 or 6 of them. And
Would you
like I was
plan
like,
on
oh yeah.
making sorry?
And it was actually my buddy AB Luna, who's also he's also part of Laredo Border Slam Poetry, and he's a poet and musician. He's actually the one that he kind of gave me this idea. Like he reached out to me and was like, hey, we need someone to like have a workshop. What do you think about hosting? And I was like, you know what? That'll be cool because, I always wanted to do a workshop on metaphors. So like, like anybody who doesn't know how to do metaphors or doesn't know much about it, I'm pretty good at it. So it's like, I was like, okay, we get a chance to teach you both.
I can see why.
Yeah, like I'm still learning. I've been doing this for about maybe going on 3 years, but I'm still learning. I always tell people like, I don't know everything about poetry. I know how to write, but that doesn't mean like there's different ways to perform. There's different ways to write. There's different ways. So it's like, I'm still learning. It just inspires me. So that's why like I did that for the first time, and I did it for my second time at Lunada. So I did it over there. I met the manager, and he talked to the owner, and they let me do a poetry workshop over there live, and it was pretty cool. Like 3 people showed up, but the fact of the matter is, like, as long as like 1, 2, 3 people, doesn't matter, there could be as many people or very little people that show up, but I'll still be happy. I'll still be happy to teach that class because I want to.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, what was your goal for the workshops? Like when you were doing them?
To teach as much as I can. To show them as much as to show them what I know, and maybe it'll help them along the way.
That's awesome. Do you plan on doing any more, or would you want to host another one?
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't mind.
I think that's the next step after writing a book, huh?
Yeah, like yeah. Ironically, I took that step before writing the book, but but yeah, it's also another inspiration to it was the fact that like I wanted to be trying new things. I told myself like, you know what, write this book because you know what, you got nothing to lose. There's a lot of people that lost their lives, and I hate the fact that like it took having that for me to have that perspective. But I was like, you know what, there's a lot of people going through a lot right now. A lot of people have passed away through COVID. So do as much as you can because life, is short, and that's why I was throwing myself out there. When I performed for the first time, when AJ's gave me that first gig, I don't know what to expect. I was like, I might get booed off stage because it's a bar. So it's like I don't know what it's like to perform at a bar by myself. I'm used to performing in competitions, but when I did that for the first time, oh man, what a crowd I had. And I had very good support there, and it was very awesome. That it was very like, it was so amazing that they asked me to bring open mics, and we had that for a good 3 months until like the NFL season came, and it happened to like be at the same time with the poetry open mics. Yeah. So they asked me what I wanted to do, and I know they have more events, so I didn't. There's it's hard to fit in the schedule. So it's like, you know what, I'll bring them off right now, and I'll bring them back later on, sometime, whenever we get the chance, But yeah, that was pretty much my.
How did you come across Los Olvidados?
I'm a big coffee addict, right? So, I've been there a few times, and like I think the very first time I went there, I think it was through a poetry workshop. Tom Bayancel, another poet that a buddy of mine was also part of Laredo Border Slam. And like, I actually don't know. I had been there one time before that. So that was the second time I was there. He was teaching a poetry workshop, and I've gone for their coffee too as well. Shout out to Los Laos as well. Because
for real, shout out to them. Like honestly, yeah. When we attempted the first video, I honestly loved the vibe when we went over there. Like the coffee was good. I like how they sell stuff there, and it's just like so comfortable, and then they have the stage, so I can see why you liked it there. It's so fitting for like poets to work there, so hopefully there's more shoes and stuff there.
It's a very place like to host a workshop. When I went to the workshop over there, it was like, wow, like
Olvidados, and that's how you came across, that awesome environment.
Yeah, they actually let me perform there once. That was one of my other gigs that I had. I performed there for an hour, and it was like, wow, it was a really, not that many people showed up, but like, as long as like, and that's how it is when you perform live, like by yourself. You got to get used to like having little people, decent people there, like, decent amount of people, like large crowds.
small
Like I remember
crowds, medium crowds,
yeah,
people who are
somebody asked me,
interested, people who are there for other reasons, but gain
yeah,
interest. I definitely get you. Like I think that's how it is for any type of entertainer, you know. So
of course.
so would you like to actually read one of your poems here?
Yeah, sure. Let's see.
Which one's your favorite one?
I have a lot of favorites, but I think I'm gonna read my most personal one. It's the first one in my book,
Okay.
and it's one that people have read already, and they come up to me and they're like, "Oh man, like you actually wrote that?" I was like, "Yeah." It's because it's about my grandma who passed away. She was pretty much like the story to this is that when my grandpa passed back in '07, she was having a hard time, dealing with his death. Understandable. So like she was moving back and forth like with my uncle and aunt in Austin, I think, and what's it called for a few months, and then she would come live with us, for a few months, and she kind of got tired of like just moving up and down, so like she chose to live with us, and it was one of those things where she was really depressed, you know what I mean? And I didn't handle what she had to say very well because I didn't understand it at the time. I was a lot younger. But like, I feel like I could have handled this well because she would tell me like I want to leave this earth already. And like, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. So my bad. So
yeah, it's a kind of like a uncomfortable topic to subject to kind of talk about, but I
so it
completely
was like, yeah, so it's about her death. And like, I also mentioned in the one of the last parts where like I had a dream about her the night before her funeral. And I saw my grandpa up in heaven and my grandma up there, and like, they had a message for me. It's gonna be okay. So it was like, and it felt so real. And it took me a very long time to actually write this poem because I really didn't, I didn't think I was ever gonna write it. And I really didn't have the words for it. And it was like, and every time I would try to write it, I would choke up. And it was like, I was like, oh, right now's not the time,
Yeah.
I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. And also, it's called I Know You're Still There. And the reason why is because besides the fact that I can still feel her presence, is the fact that when she was living here with us before she passed away, there was this chair that we have in our living room. And it's like, it was her chair. So it was her favorite chair. So she would be the one to sit there.
Yeah.
So she'd always be there watching TV and stuff like that. And like, it was crazy. One night, I'm like, I passed by that chair. And like, I kind of felt like, when you kind of feel like, oh snap, like I feel like I'm not alone in this room. You know what I mean? I was by myself.
Like that spirit presence, like a presence of like a spirit there. Like you could feel the person that's passed on. Like you could feel their energy, their vibe, or something there. Like I felt that before too with my brother. I have. So I completely understand where you're coming from when you say that you feel, because I honestly personally believe that like our spirit never dies. Like our body dies, but our spirit continues to exist.
Yeah. And it's very like, it hit me like a wave, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what to think. And I was like, okay, I got the perfect title for this book. Cause like I felt that for a good while. Felt that like a few times. And I was like, every time I pass by, I'm like, I say a prayer, I do this and I say a prayer to her chair and I'm like, I know you're still here with us, like I feel you. Like I know you're still here with us. Like, I felt your presence more than once.
Yeah.
So I was like, the first thing I said, like when I saw it the first time, I was like, I know you're still there. So I called it I Know You're Still There. That's pretty much, that's the name of the very first poem in my book because it's one of my most personal poems in the book. So people have read it and they're like, oh man, like that's a crazy like in a good way. Like, you know what I mean? But people will be like, man, I felt that, and I'm like, I appreciate that, So yeah.
I can't wait to hear it.
I think of her. I feel her. I see her in everything beautiful around me. I can still feel her presence in this house smiling back at me. That chair in our living room carries many memories of a sweet old lady. She looks just as beautiful spiritually as she did before she moved up to heaven. I bet God said, you brought heaven to people on earth, so when you go to sleep tonight, I'll bring heaven to you. I look up at the sky and I say, I miss you. I love you. I know you and Grandpa are here with us through every moment of our lives. I still hear her voice. It's the most beautiful sound I ever heard. It's like an angel on your shoulder telling you that everything will be fine. It's like the crickets humming a tune when you're enjoying the outdoors. It's like ocean waves smashing away your problems so fast and you just forget about what you're depressed about. Like enjoying a beautiful sunrise with the love of your life, just looking at them and saying, this is perfection. I'll dream and hear questions. How's your day at work, mijo? Do you like this show? Have you found a woman you can share your life with? True love meant a lot to her. She experienced it firsthand. I can still hear the stories of her one true love taking her out to dance. I can still hear the pain in her voice when she said, I miss him so much. I wish I was with him. I love him. I want to be in heaven already so I can see him again. It burned a hole in me, hearing her talking about dying and death, about how the world doesn't need her anymore. I never understood why she would say that to her own grandson when she knew that I hated it. Or just maybe it wasn't a thought of suicide. Maybe it was a thought of I enjoyed the ride, but if God calls me home, then that's fine because I lived my life. I'm sorry I got so angry sometimes, but it's not you that I hated. It was the painful thought of being without you. The horrible thoughts of you not being with us anymore. But even though I didn't want her to go, even though I did not want her to go, I love to imagine that my grandpa yelled out her name from those golden gates and said, my dear, it's time to finally come home. Now, I'm the one who is in the outdoors, keeping company among the stars, staring out in the open, and I can see her smile in the sky. I can see my grandpa taking her hand. They're dancing along to a beautiful song. The words aren't quite clear, but I can hear his voice as he tells her, I love you, and I've been waiting all these years for your arrival, my dear. I'm so glad that you're here. He did everything he could to make her happy here on earth. Now he's making her happy in the afterlife. I like to imagine that my grandpa requested some music from any mariachi up in heaven. He says, can you play your favorite tune? It's already bright up in heaven, but her smile makes it a brighter room. You see, I had this dream of both of them in that very same room the night before her funeral. He tells me, don't be sad because she loves her new home. I see my grandpa for the very first time in so many years. He's standing right next to a bar. He smiles and says, do you want a whiskey or a beer? You're a lot older now, so there's no age limit for you here. I told him, I'll take a whiskey. We cheers with our glasses and say cheers. Happy to see each other. We talk a while. We say our farewells, and then they tell me that they'll always be with me. I know they meant every word because every night when I pass by grandma's old chair, I can feel their spirits next to me. I know you're still there. I know you're listening. I know you're still there. And I turn around and I tell her once again with a smile, I love you. I know you're still there.
That was beautiful.
Appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it. I really connected with it too. I teared up a little bit. You just can't see the glasses. That's a very beautiful poem, and I definitely can relate to it. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other people can relate to that. I did. It was like, oh, a little glass of whiskey, like
that felt
cool as hell. Just saying.
Yeah, and it felt so real. Like that dream was like, I literally, when you wake up, or like just say you have like a crazy dream and you're like, wait a minute, you're just looking around, you're like, is this really happening? You know what I mean? Like where you get that like you get that little scare, you know what I mean? So it's like with that dream, I woke up
kind of like a lucid dream. Yeah. That's what I think you were having, a lucid dream. Like and your spirit was like called to visit them, or they were visiting you. I've had a lot of dreams like that. I don't even want, I could go on forever and ever about those type of dreams, but we can talk about that later through Messenger.
Yeah, I still get like choked up whenever I perform that poem. I'm still learning how to perform it without kind of messing up a little bit because, man, I get chills right now.
It's a great poem though, and I think you did pretty good, you know. But yeah, with more practice on stage and stuff, I think it's just, you know, I think you're also just a little bit camera shy.
Yeah. Actually, like I really don't get camera shy anymore. Like I really don't get. I don't think I get like shy anymore on stage. I think I've had enough gigs and done enough competitions to like actually like, you know, I still get chills though. I get anxious. I actually get more anxious to go up, and I'm like, oh man, I love listening to like, you know, different poets, but like it's like you can't wait. You always have that poem that you can't wait to perform, and like I guess that's how I am. Like, you know, like I wanna perform that poem as, you know, as much as possible, and it's like it's very so yeah, I get more anxious and nervous. You know, like if anything, I think I get like not nervous, but like I still get chills performing this poem because like, man, like I choke up at times. It's like, yeah.
Poem, maybe that's like, it's because I believe when you get chills and stuff, especially when you're talking about people who have passed on, it's probably because they are like literally right behind you.
Maybe
They're like, hey, I'm just here to like, I'm just popping in, and I might not stay very long, but I just came to pop in to show some support.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy when you think about it like that. It's like, hey, you never know, it could be true. I always tell people anything's possible. You know, don't just blow things off and be like, oh no, that can't happen, because it could. You never know.
Yeah,
there's this one time where I saw my grandma's face like on a cross, you know, looking down at me at church, and I was like, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I was like literally I saw her face right there, and I was like, but I also had like a couple cups of coffee too. So like, but like I had to like turn around and be like, wait, was this coffee? And I look back up, I still see her face, and I'm like, okay, no, it's not the coffee, it's her, you know. So yeah, it's like, and yeah.
Well, Ricky, I just want to say thank you again for coming on to the show. Like, I'm very intrigued by a lot of the things that you had to say, and I honestly feel like so many people are going to be inspired by and motivated by you. Before we end the call, do you want to like share any information on where you can get your book, or this episode is going to be out, I think, next week. So maybe the Mystic Fair, or like you want to share your socials or plugins, or send any shout outs to any of the people? I know you already sent out a lot of shout outs, but do your thing.
First of all, I want to say shout out to every person that's ever performed at their bar, and shout out to everybody who's been listening. Shout out to y'all for letting me be here, you know, for inviting me on. Shout out to Laredo Boys Slam Poetry. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have had a venue to ever do this. And shout out to Cindy for helping me with the book. And okay, if you want, I have an Instagram poetry page, Miguel _ my name's Ricky, but I have it under my middle name, Miguel _ 18402. And if you want to see my stuff, you can catch Miguel _ 18402. You can catch my poetry page there. I have different poems, I have different poetry quotes that are there. You'll see all the news from competitions, Laredo Board Slam, poetry slams. Anytime I'm going to be performing, I'll share the news. I'll share everything. And if you want to look for me on Facebook, I also share the news there as well. Miguel Martinez. Full Miguel Martinez. And I just want to let everybody know that I'll be performing 2 shows coming up. I'll be performing this coming Thursday on July 7th, sorry, from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. at AG's Bar, and I'll be selling and signing books afterwards. And I'll be also performing that Saturday at La Luna on Chihuahua Street. And it's a pretty cool deal. Shout out to Mandy, who's also like one of the owners from La Luna, for inviting me over there, for letting me perform there. And yeah, so shout out to them, and like you catch me performing over there this coming Saturday from 8:30 to 9:30. And my Cindy will be opening up for me. She'll be opening up. She'll be the opener for my show. And over there, you can. There's a lot of vendors. A lot of people. You know, you can catch my book being sold there. You can catch Cindy's book being sold there. And there's other vendors that sell different things. And you know, they got beer. They got other drinks. Not alcohol, but they got like
Tea,
beer,
coffee. Yeah.
I don't know if they sell coffee. I wish it did, but they have food there, and like we perform. We're besides musicians, we're also the entertainment. So you can catch like 4 poets performing there at times. But this Saturday, I'll be performing a live show. For now,
we're gonna be there too. We're gonna go IPP's.
Awesome.
We'll see you there. All right. Well, it was such a pleasure working with you, and thank you also again for being on this show. Y'all check out Cindy's episode. That's going to be.
I sure will.
Check out Cindy's episode. Check out all of our other episodes with Alejandro Fajardo, and don't forget to go onto Spotify and go to Introverted Poets Podcast. Instagram page, and all the links will be posted in this video below. Miguel's links, other information and details will be posted in the link below. So without further ado,
also real quick, one more thing as well. I just want to say you could also find my book, Broken Reflections. You can find it if you want to order. You can order it on Amazon, or you can also order it on elusivepublishing.com, which is my publisher Cindy's page. You can order it there, and it's $10 on both of them. If not, you can get it from me. You can, if you're gonna save my Facebook or my Instagram, you can reach out to me for a book. I got more copies coming up, and they're just $10 as well. And I'll sign up for you if you want to.
They're very affordable, everybody. Yeah. So yes, go get his book now. If you haven't gotten it, I have to go. It's on my list right now. I wish. So yes, thank you, everybody. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you once again for having me.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Let's work. Yo, it's go time, showtime, never backing down time. One shot, yo, make it count, yo. Crunch time, shine time, make this moment my time. Get a grip, yo, ready, set, go. We bring the thunder. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Bring the thunder. Let's work. Bring the thunder. Let's go. Yeah, it's my time, your time. Step into the spotlight. Get lit, yo. Let yourself go. Our time, high time. Gotta go big time. This is it, yo. Never take no fight time. Grind time. Take it to the street time. Turn the roof off. Get loco. Game time. Win